Welcome to this Mindful Monday. We're looking at the mindfulness of Dhammas and looking at the truth. And one of the concepts that we rarely talk about is death, and that is going to be this topic. So we all know what death is. We may have experienced the death of a loved one. But how often do we actually contemplate on death? Or is it something that we tend to push away or not want to think about? Within this talk, we're going to look at what is death and how it's viewed in a Buddhist context. Going to look at near-death experiences, and we're going to do a meditation practice on contemplating on death. So let's hear the wise words from the Buddha on this. This one life has no form and is empty by nature. If you become attached by any form, you should reject it. If you see an ego, a soul, a birth, or a death, reject them all. So let's have a look at what is death. I guess it's something that we don't really know exactly what it is, because those that experience it don't really come back to tell us what it's like. But we've heard a lot about it, and we can look at it from the Buddhist context. So Buddha says, one clings to life, although there is nothing to be called life. Another clings to death, although there is nothing to be called death. In reality, there is nothing to be born. Consequently, there is nothing to perish. So it's a concept. You may have heard Thich Nhat Hanh talk about no birth, no death, no coming, no going. So let's have a look and see a little bit more about death and rebirth, what it means. So it was addressed in the Pajatana Sutta, and it also comes out in the 5 remembrances, where we look at, which we'll look at as we go through this. I guess it is about impermanence, that there's no, we come and we go, we're entered into this world and then we leave this world. And sometimes we think we're invincible. So we think we're just going to live forever. That it's not to suppress the fragility of the body, and when things do happen to us, we have a major surgery or something, we're very grateful and we start to realize how fragile the body is. There's a lot of fear around death, and Buddhist view is to expel that fear and to become comfortable and prepare for it. We don't know when it's going to come. We don't know how. But what we can do is actually get present to the concept of death. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead actually goes through that. And they actually meditate on dead bodies to really get present to the reality. And the Buddhist view is to become enlightened in this life, so you're not reborn again into the world of samsara. So this revolving wheel of life, it's about getting out of it, being free. So the 5 remembrances are these. I am subject to aging. There is no way to avoid aging. It's a really good thing to remember, because in the consumer world that we live, aging is viewed as a problem. Hence, hairdressers make a lot of money from dyeing hair. Who says your hair changing colour is a bad thing? So it's coming to that acceptance with this remembrance that I am subject to aging. There is no way to avoid aging. The next one is I'm subject to ill health. There is no way to avoid illness. So if you are up to this point without having experienced any illness, it's very, very rare. We may have all experienced illness at some point when we were younger, or the common cold. The body, is subject to ill health. We're not going to be well all the time. So it's one to remember that there's no way to avoid illness. So it's going to come. And when it comes, you're more prepared for it. Third, I'm going to die. There is no way to avoid death. Another great truth. There is no way to avoid death. And you are going to die. No one has lived to the age of 170. So one to remember, so you can prepare for it. Fourth, everyone and everything that I love will change, and I will be separated from them. We have to get present to this and remember this. It's, we are all human beings, and one may depart earlier from this existence than the other. My only true possessions are my actions, and I cannot escape their consequences. So getting present to that as a remembrance. every action has a consequence. So just get present to that. Anything else, possession is an illusion because it's just not something you can take with you. So we're going to look at this, what a near-death experience is, just to get present to some of those experiences have explained what it may be like when the process comes. So there's a lot of people that have claimed that they've had near-death experiences and it cannot be explained. So their accounts contain very similar things across the board. And one of them is a bright light at the end of the tunnel, which they are being drawn down to. The other is separation from the physical body. So sometimes being outside of their body, looking down. Feelings of calm and peace, despite knowing that they're dead. Being in a garden, interacting with dead friends and relatives. So being reunited with loved ones from the past. So let's get present to a meditation on death to give us an insight into our thoughts around death and what comes up and our feelings, the body.
So getting into a comfortable position for this meditation, either sitting on the floor or on the chair with your legs uncrossed, keeping the back nice and upright, and just half closing the eyes, placing one hand on top of the other, just resting your hands on your thighs. Taking a nice deep breath in, and as you breathe out, relaxing your shoulders. On the next inhale, scanning the body from the head all the way down to the toes. Now checking in with the mind and just note what's there. Putting any worries or concerns aside, like taking your shoes off before entering a building, just putting them aside while we set our intention for this meditation practice. To get present to mindfulness of truth, the Dhamma, the Buddha's teaching. But getting present to death as a concept. This life, this one life, has no form and is empty by nature. If you become attached by any form, you should reject it. If you see an ego, soul, birth, or death, reject them all, says the Buddha. So bringing to mind the 5 remembrances. I am subject to aging. There is no way to avoid aging. I am subject to ill health. There is no way to avoid illness. I am going to die. There is no way to avoid death. Everyone and everything that I love will change, and I'll be separated from them. My only true possessions are my actions, and I cannot escape their consequences. So getting present to the realization of death and bringing to mind Steve Jobs' quote, "Death is very likely to be the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." The next inhale, just scan the body from the head all the way down to the toes. Now just check in with the mind and just note what's there. What mind state are you in? Is it different to when you started? Just note what it is and then get present to the felt experience, that mind state. And then perhaps investigate where it's come from. And then just letting go. Getting ready to open your eyes and come back into the room.
So, what was your experience of that meditation? What feelings came up, and what was the felt experience? So, Steve Jobs gave a fantastic speech at Stanford University. So, if you haven't watched that online, go onto YouTube and watch it. He says death is very likely to be the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. So, wise words from the late Steve Jobs. Any questions on the topic of death? If you want to email or turn up for a live class, please do. Here's the invitation to do the work. So get present to those 5 remembrances and start to investigate the Buddhist thought on death. You can look into the Tibetan book on the dead. You can watch a Dharma talk on the 5 remembrances. You can practice meditation on what death actually is to expel the fears, alleviate those. Here's some of the resources that you can watch.